Karen McMillan. 25 books, 11 different countries.
I'd get up at 5 a.m. before my day job and write because I loved it. But a lot of that stuff just stayed on my computer. But one time they sent me out to interview Mitch Albom. He's written a load of books. He's an American broadcaster, seriously famous. And I was so nervous. The breast physician, she goes, "This isn't good." We both knew I had cancer at that point. There was an absolute moment of I'm going to die. Because I've always considered what would happen if I get cancer, because the odds are there with the family. That my body started shaking uncontrollably, just feeling so unconfident. I've battled cancer and I'm still working, and that's when I'm made redundant. But I'm not going to feel sorry for myself. I'm not going to go, it's not fair. I've just beaten cancer and now I've got this. I'm going, no, I'm going to get through this. And rather than going home and crying, I went home and redid my CV. So the first one out of the gate after cancer was The Paris of the East, which was the #1 bestseller here in New Zealand.
That was the first book that you said, you know what, I'm going to actually write my own thing.
Which is amazing, eh?
Hey guys, welcome to Stand Up Again podcast with Sophie and Nick Ratto.
Yeah, very, very pleased to have our next guest. She's a published author, 25 books she's written in 11 different countries, including,
Poland.
Poland. She'll talk about Poland. Great chats about many
resilience.
things that she's gone through where most people would be like, I cannot get up from this. And she managed to not only stay positive through it, but go through all of the things that she went to, but then also it all led to probably, you would argue, her biggest success potentially. So it's really inspiring. I can't wait for you to hear the chat and see the chat. So please welcome to the podcast, Karen McMillan.
Our kids love the Elastic Island adventures. So we've had nights where every night we're reading the book, reading another chapter. And it was so amazing to have our kids just, enjoy this lovely big adventure of this book series. And then I feel like I've already been inside your head because we're meeting together for the first time, you and I today.
True, yes.
But I already feel like I know you from being inside your imagination. So it's so cool.
Talk to the book day.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just thinking because this is our first time meeting, and all the Elastic adventures for, at school, our kids come home and say, oh, it's book week at school. We've got to dress up. And my son picked the most challenging outfit because he wanted to be the quokka character.
Oh, my goodness.
From your book. And now where do I begin with this costume? And thank you very much, Karen.
You're obviously very talented to do a quokka costume.
I don't think we
there was
did
a lot
it.
of Temu searching in it. It was challenging, but it was just beautiful to see that, the impression that you have on young minds as well as adults as well, with your books ranging from fiction, nonfiction, and children's as well.
That is so kind because I think I haven't been very sensible, but it's nice to hear that it's working for your family.
It is.
Yeah.
Because doing nonfiction, adult novels and children's books is a little unusual, but it's just kind of the way it's all played out. So I'm very grateful. I feel so just full of gratitude for my life.
And it's also potentially going to be made into something a bit more, the Elastic Island Adventures. Can you speak to that?
It's option for it to be made into movies.
Wow.
Yeah, which would be amazing. But to be honest, for me as a writer, I would just like the movies to be made so more children read the books.
Right.
So for me, it's still about the books.
Yeah.
And I just hope I get to write more.
Yes.
So. And I love when I write Elastic Island Adventures in particular because I always put myself on summer holiday in my mind.
Yeah.
How lovely, eh?
I was thinking actually when you're writing fictional adult books and the children one, do you feel it's more playful writing for kids versus the adult ones?
Oh, it's a different process completely. And I channel my 10-year-old self.
Yeah.
My child is still very much alive. And when I'm writing it, I'll be like, oh, that's just really boring. Take it out. This is really fun. We need more of this. So it's a very different process. And because I do a lot of school events, I'm getting loads of feedback from children directly, and they're really honest.
Oh, they are.
Really?
And they just tell you what they want in the next book,
Really?
which is great.
Well, that's perfect. Write it down. That's the next book.
I'll see what I can do,
Yeah, that's great. And the different languages that have been put into, where's the most surreal place that you think, I didn't think I'd have a book in this particular country or this language?
Probably would be Poland.
Wow.
And I went on author tour there too. So the only thing I can read at the Polish edition of Unbreakable Spirit, my very first book, is my name, which is really weird.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the
Yeah.
cover's the same as in the image?
Oh, no, a
or-
different cover.
Oh, different cover
Yeah,
as well.
so
Interesting.
different publishers will do completely different covers.
So why
Interesting.
is that? Why is it some covers resonate different in
Yeah,
different countries?
totally.
Really?
Like, you can think it's a world market that's exactly the same sensibilities. It's not. So every market will be slightly different. And we can see that in the New Zealand market too. So we get a lot of UK books in, we get a lot of American covers in. Sometimes the American covers in particular don't work for our sensibilities.
What can you like be specific and like?
Oh, look, I don't
terms
want to
of
be
what-
mean about American covers because some are
No.
very
You can.
good.
No. Yeah.
But we tend to be a bit more cutting edge with our design. American, sometimes the covers can be quite twee,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, so have a look next time you're in a bookshop and you might see what I mean.
Yeah.
Actually, it reminds me, I was looking through your bio at a book that you'd edited for the New Zealand market. I think it was a book on grief. Was
Yes,
it?
for dying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
So it was specifically maybe South African book, but for the New Zealand market.
Yes.
And I guess that's a whole different conversation as well. I mean, book covers twee or, a different cutting edge,
Yeah,
but
but-
actually the message of the book.
This was the content. So it was a wonderful book, but South African market to our New Zealand market, so most of like their palliative care is around, the back of them was around AIDS,
Right.
where ours is usually cancer. So it's quite different when you actually come into that. And also some of the equipment, the terminology was different. So it's just making sure it was New Zealand centric, not South African centric. Yeah, so it was a wonderful book to work on. Very different for me to work on that.
Very, yeah.
So
Yeah.
you talked about your first book, Unbreakable Spirit. It's a heck of a title. What is that about for those that maybe haven't seen it or or thinking, that sounds like a good book to
So
read.
This was my very, very first book. And I actually thought I was going to write the Great New Zealand novel, as every writer does. But long story short, my mum and dad died when I was young. They were young. And I ended up volunteering for my local hospice. So I was doing a lot of work that, writing that, promotes the wonderful work that they do. And I was just interviewing what I call everyday people, people that were in the hospice program, or the nurses, caregivers, people like that. But one time they sent me out to interview Mitch Albom. And if you haven't heard of him, he wrote Tuesdays with Maury, picked up by Oprah Winfrey. He's written a load of books. He's an American broadcaster, seriously
wow.
famous. And they asked me to interview him for the hospice newsletter.
Wow.
So they sent me along and I was so nervous. It was just like, Anyway, I think he took, he was very kind to me and he asked me a few questions about my mum and dad and what had happened with them. And then he turned to me and he said, "Girl, you've got a book there." So having this really famous person tell me that I've got a book idea, I thought, do I? And I actually looked into it and I thought, actually, I do. So it wasn't just about my mum and dad, but it was like 20 stories of people facing cancer. So it's people that are survivors, people that are caregivers, people that lost people, like the whole gamut of how it actually plays out in real life. So it wasn't like a celebrity survival story. It wasn't like if you broccoli 10 times a day, it'll
Sure.
kill you. It was real. So it's been published around the world. I've got that Polish edition.
There we go.
Yeah. So that was my very first book.
Yeah.
That's an amazing title and an amazing, book for people, especially those going through it in some way, as you say, maybe not the actual person themselves suffering, but someone in the family and someone who's helping look after that person as well.
When did you feel like you were a writer?
So I wanted to write since I was 10 years old, and I was writing when I was 10 years old. I used to write these really terrible short stories that were published in the Sunday News that had a double-page spread for children's stuff.
Yeah.
And I used to get these little tokens that I take to the post office to redeem for money and little certificates.
Yeah.
I just thought every kid did that.
Yeah.
I definitely did not do that.
Right.
So I had this big passion for writing from an early age. And then, of course, my teenage years, my 20s, I didn't really pursue it. I actually ended up with a job in the fashion design world.
Really?
Yeah, so something completely different. I love the creativity of it because I'm a creative and I love just, making things up and designing things and that. But I had an epiphany after my parents died that I literally sat up in bed one morning and I thought, I don't want to be doing this anymore. I want to work in publishing and I want to write.
Wow.
Really?
And that was that light bulb moment.
Yeah.
And a few weeks later, I saw this advert and that ended up being my first job in publishing.
So can you talk to that about, so your parents passed away, you were quite young, they were quite young, and that time, hard? What were you juggling at the time? Yeah.
Devastating.
And talk us through that timeline.
Yeah,
So
how
I
old were you,
was
Karen?
15 years old when Dad first went into hospital, and they thought there's something wrong with his heart. He was diagnosed with cancer. We thought he had 6 months to live. So you can imagine I'm just like doing the normal school exams, and
Yeah.
next minute my father's potentially dying. But he battled on, and he actually survived for another 8 years. So he was 48 when he died.
Wow, it's still young, isn't it?
Yeah, really young. And we didn't actually know what the disease was until afterwards. But medical technology's moved
Sure.
on. And then a couple of years later, my mum was diagnosed with breast cancer. So we'd only just got through the grief and everything with my dad, and then we're into it again with my mum. And from the get-go, my mum caught it late, and she battled on, and she died when she was 55. So, this is my 20s, losing my parents. So, it was devastating,
So what was it like did it feel like you were being halted in terms of moving on and yourself and doing the things that you wanted to do, traveling, or just doing things that 20-year-old Karen would want to do? Or was it trying to juggle the both as well? Like, was it trying to
Well, I
do
guess
everything at once?
like the focus at that time, I was caring for my parents.
Right.
So especially when my mum was diagnosed as being terminally ill, I literally moved into her house for 9 months and cared for her by myself till the end. I had other support, but I was the caregiver.
Primary,
But
yeah.
and I just made sure that at that stage I was designing so I could do my work from her place, so I could juggle that. But there's just so much loss with that. It was absolutely the right thing to do, and if I went back in time, I would do it again. But, it does have an impact.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
How
absolutely.
old were you? So 15 through till...
So, but in my late 20s.
Oh, wow.
So, that whole experience. So, unfortunately, I know a lot about cancer
Yeah.
because I've had that upfront, row seat on it with my parents.
I'm just thinking about that really challenging time, and I'm really sorry you went through that. It's just back to back as well. There was no respite for you as the caregiver as well. But for you, I'm just interested, how did you get through that? Were there any strategies or anything you learned from that time that helped you through?
I probably, to be honest, I made a lot of mistakes. Yeah, especially when I was caring for my mum. So when my mum was ill, she wanted to keep it very private, which was, exactly her. It was good for her, but it wasn't particularly good for me because I ended up being quite isolated. So, wonderful hospice help. I couldn't have looked after her without them, but it was quite isolating because I couldn't really tell a lot of people, and that means you're kind of on your own. So I think strategies, if you're able to bring people in and get your team around you, it just lightens the load.
Yes.
And just because someone's terminally ill doesn't mean there's not a lot of good life to be lived. Can I remember, Mum and I had fun, and we had wonderful conversations that I'll never forget. And she was strong, she was like, okay, look, I accept I'm going to die, but I'm still living each day. So she hadn't given up and she wasn't depressed. She was honestly living her life to the full, right to the end. And she loved gardening. And I knew we were kind of in trouble one time when I just popped out to get some groceries and she'd come back and she decided to mow the lawns by herself. But you can't stop people from doing these things. But I could see how exhausted she was and her back was hurting, all these other things. And I thought, I'm going to need some extra help. That was the key moment where I thought I'd hoped that we could have her at home and I would care for her right to the end. But it's like, I can't do it. We need to get her to hospice. Partly because she was physically bigger than me and I couldn't lift her. So there's all these practicalities that come in. So it's not just the emotional side, it's the practical side of things.
And after losing your parents, both of them, your mum lastly, and how were you able to just show up in the world? What were you able to continue working? Did you have to take time off? What was your
fortunately,
recovery?
at that stage, I was freelancing, so I could continue working. So that was fine. It was a devastating time. I think for anybody out there it's devastating to lose any of your parents. But when you lose the second one, you're an orphan. And even if you're an adult, it really kicks you in the gut. That's hard. And even now, I miss my mum. I'd love to have told her that I'm coming on this podcast today. Mums are really special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So afterwards, was it so after the passing, obviously 15 years pretty much of looking after your parents, half your lifetime, which is a long time. How do you then just
be in the world. Did you have a transition period? Was there bits that
Yeah, look, well, how long is the grief process with losing parents for you personally? How long did that take you to?
Oh, like I can't really say. And like anybody that looks at grief, it's you can know all the steps, but it's not that linear. Comes and goes.
Yeah.
I suppose for me, like I was living in Wellington then, and I actually left Wellington after that. I felt for me there was just too many sad memories there, so I kind of came up to Auckland and started afresh. But because that had a lot of challenges, because I'm making new friends. And I actually ended up being clinically depressed. I'd kind of had too many losses at that stage.
wow.
Yeah. How did you seek help for being?
Oh, look, you got to have a good GP and get them on
So
board.
how does that? I feel like we've talked on other shows and things of like, and then I was this. So like I was in burnout, or I was in other, other labels. But when you're in it, you don't see that, do you? Did you know
what
that?
was your-
Like who?
yeah.
Yeah. So someone said to you that's what you were in, and
So GP said you are clinically depressed, and she said like it's no wonder because you've had all these things happen. And there was other things going on too because life doesn't happen in a vacuum.
right.
And I don't want to go into all the other things, but
Yeah.
like you just there's only so much a human body can and mind can put up with.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, well, okay. I kind of looked at it a little bit logically and I go, okay, at that stage they're saying that my serotonin levels have, gone too low. So, yeah, I'll do all the help, to get through that.
What was the help? What did they suggest?
Oh,
Was it-
like short-term medication.
Sure.
And I was a bit naughty because I only just took it for a month and then just ditched it, which
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend.
Yeah.
But you were trying different things.
Yeah, and it's just like someone telling me that. I thought, oh, well, okay, let's just sort this. And I guess I've always been a bit like that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you could, go to bed and just cry, which I did. But, then you've got to, like, how do I pull myself out of this?
Do you think because of the situation where you had to grow up pretty quick and then kind of go, no one else is here to help? Because normally there's always the parents or someone else to come in and save the day. But I guess was that the learning, I guess, is no one else is coming, so I've got to
That's
sort this
hard,
myself.
when you're suddenly an adult. I mean, you're an adult anyway, but you've lost your backup of your mum and dad because your parents are so important, aren't
Sure.
they?
Yeah, I still think. I think I even say to you something, maybe my mum and dad will just come and solve this for us. I'm like, no.
Yeah,
We're the
I've lost
grown-ups.
my
Yeah.
backstop.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate that I'm naturally a positive person.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a person of faith too. So,
Yes.
that always comes in. That's I suppose, a big positive because I think if I was naturally a negative person, that would have been a death knell,
I think so. I definitely think so. And it's interesting you say person of faith as well, because when things like this are happening to you, because you have those tragic things that happen to you, and then you yourself went through this situation where you got diagnosed as well, does that, like, do you sort of say, what am I missing here? What's the lesson that I was supposed to be teaching? Because I think a lot of us have been through different things, and we think that as well. We kind of go, I thought I was doing everything right. Like, what's going on here?
So I guess that's the silver lining of caring for my parents. I know so much about cancer from that personal perspective.
Right.
And like anyone can get it. So no one's done anything wrong.
Sure.
So I think we often attach a lot of blame and there's actually no blame. Like babies get cancer, children get cancer. So they haven't had time to do anything wrong. Yeah. So I think when you realise that, you can go, well, why not me? Because like they say 1 in 3 people will get cancer in their lifetime, which might be a melanoma that's,
Sure.
fixed.
Yeah.
But when you think 1 in 3, that's a big stat.
Yeah.
So, why not me? So if you can have that attitude, you might not be like this is terrible, why not? And in particular in my family, cancer is the thing in my family.
Really?
So we don't have heart disease and other things, it's cancer. And, 50% of the family on both sides, cancer. So my mum died of it, my auntie survived it, but my grandmother lived to 95 and she was perfectly well. But to begin with, like in 2011 when I was diagnosed with cancer, like I was mainly working on publishing at that point. So like I was supporting other authors, working with some big name authors. It was a lot of fun, traveling the world too. I'd done international rights as well. So, I was loving it. And I'd written 5 books at that stage, but they, like Unbreakable Spirit, was more kind of in the background.
Sure.
So it's not really about me, it's about other people. non-fiction, a little bit different from fiction.
Mm.
So, and also I didn't feel very confident about putting myself forward.
Interesting.
So I was doing a lot of writing in the background, but like I'd get up at 5 a.m. before my day job and write because I loved it. But a lot of that stuff would just stayed on my computer.
Right.
So like I can talk about being diagnosed with cancer because, having both my parents pass, I thought I've got to have a good GP. We had a game plan about this. What do I do? What's the strategies? So a key thing, of course, was getting an annual mammogram and ultrasound. So at that stage, I had to pay for them because I was well under the age where you get them for free. And that was fine. And I'd become blasé about it. Every year, it's just I go and do that. I get the big tick. Everything's fine. Away I go. So I remember quite clearly this particular time, I'd actually forgotten I had an appointment. And I looked at my diary and, okay. And usually my husband would go with me, but this time he didn't because I'd forgotten about it to tell him. So I just, trundled to myself. I wasn't worried at all. And then, of course, the breast physician who's been doing my ultrasound, all the way through, she goes, this isn't good.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And she goes, it's a dense mass. It's not a cyst. It's 2 centimetres. She goes, prepare yourself for bad news. We both knew I had cancer at that point before we even did the biopsy.
Wow.
And I remember my mind was calm. My mind was absolutely calm because I've always considered what would happen if I get cancer.
Right.
Because the odds are there with the family.
Sure.
I'd be silly not to have considered it.
Sure.
But my body started shaking uncontrollably.
Really?
So interesting, My mind was calm, but my body was like going crazy.
Wow.
And then I thought, I've got to tell my husband, so he knows where I am. So the first thing when I got out was I called him up and he said as soon as he heard my voice, he stepped out of the office. He knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
And the first thing he said to me after I told him the news is like, we are going to get through this together.
Oh, wow.
So there's my support person.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
That's exactly what you needed to hear.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so, yeah.
Was
Positive
it-
though, I know you're a positive person, but surely you not plan for it, but you've thought about it and you've gone,
Your
what would
mind
I
went
do?
there.
Your mind went there, and all the stuff that you've been through. Was there a bit of defeatedness, gut, punch in the
there was
guts?
an absolute moment of like, I'm going to die.
Really? Wow.
Because of course you hear the word you've got cancer.
Wow.
Of course that's where your mind goes to first.
Yes.
But I was really fortunate. So mine is a really positive story. So from the get-go they were saying, we can fix this.
Really?
So even from that initial scan, they're going, we can fix this.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And that was because of early detection, do you think?
Yes,
Yeah?
yes.
Because you're being so proactive.
Yeah. And the mammogram didn't pick it up. So this is the
Oh.
ultrasound, just because of my age, because I was young.
Right, yeah.
So mammograms are good for women that have gone through menopause. I was nowhere near that.
Right.
Yeah, and without getting too personal, I've got dense breasts, which make it hard to pick up, which makes it sound like my breasts are really stupid.
But it is hard though, isn't it? Because we're told to check as women for lumps and bumps and everything, but some of us are extra lumpy and bumpy.
Yeah,
and so
yeah,
what's
and that would be
normal,
me.
what's changed?
Yeah.
Yeah. And in that diagnosis, in that moment, you're in that moment with, was it the ultrasound rather than
Yes.
the mammogram? And she says, this does not look good. Prepare for bad news. That is so direct.
But I knew her, remember.
But
I'd
you
been
knew
seeing her
her,
every year
yeah.
for years.
Because a lot of the time I'm finding, when I'm speaking to other people who are going through experiences like this, there is like always a 2-week wait or a follow-up referral or something. And the waiting sometimes is painful, but to have that initial feedback, okay, and you know exactly where you are there, but
Because of my knowledge, and I think
Yeah.
it would have played out differently. And we still had to wait for the biopsy
Of course,
results
sure.
and then, all the appointments for the specialists.
yeah.
But I knew from the get-go, like I knew exactly, what I was dealing with from that point.
So what did the treatment look like and how long?
Oh, okay. I did everything.
Really?
So I decided because I'd lost both my parents that of course I was going to do everything.
Sure.
So I wasn't in a situation where I might do some of the treatments, but I'll leave some. So I thought, no, I'll just do everything to give myself the best chance. Because I don't want to be like 5 years later and I've got secondaries. So I didn't want to have that situation where 5 years later I go, I wish I'd done that.
Mm.
So I knew that I'd done everything possible to make sure that I was okay. And my stats were pretty good. So again, mine's a good story. Early detection, honestly, is the best thing. So they said from the get-go that I had a 70% chance of no cancer in 5 years. by doing all the treatments, it could bump it up to 86,
Oh.
which is pretty good, eh?
Really
Pretty good.
Yeah.
But of course, that can play sometimes. Like you can focus on the 86, but sometimes you can go, what about the 14? You know, I could be dead with the 14. You know, like your mind is
Yeah,
a
your mind
weird
goes
thing.
there. Yeah, it goes there.
So I went in, so I had the mastectomy and a reconstruction. I did chemotherapy, I did radiotherapy, and I did hormone therapy. So I did everything. Yeah.
How long did it take until you got that all clear?
So effectively with breast cancer, you get the all clear when they cut it out.
Right.
Yeah. So what you're doing with the rest of it is insurance for the future.
Okay.
Sure.
But again, I was very fortunate. I hadn't spread to my lymph nodes, which is one of those big ticket things you want to tick off. You know, so there's less chance of the cancer running around the body.
There's a couple of things I want to chat to me personally, and I think I can speak on Soph's behalf as well. We really struggle with the weight. The waiting, we call it, I think it was Dr. Seuss's The Waiting Place. And so it's a whole book on it. And it's like, how did you get through? Obviously, there was, you know, you threw the kitchen sink on it, which kind of almost helps in a way. But that waiting place that you were in of, yes, you kind of bracing yourself from the worst, but actually that 2 weeks is a long time. And it's nothing when you look back on it, but when you're in it, it's the longest time. Can you remember that? Or do you know how you got through it, or just muddled through?
Look, honestly, I was so fortunate because one of the game plans with the GPs, I had private medical insurance. So I didn't have that huge weight through the public system. And that was from the get-go, like I might get cancer, so let's pay up front and do this. So a really good decision for my particular circumstance. So it means I was kind of fast-tracked. But me being me, I was like pestering the doctors, like, I want to do this earlier.
Right.
You know, and I made them do my treatments as fast as possible.
Right.
Which almost, it didn't kill me or anything, but in hindsight, I should have allowed holidays and breaks. You know, I'm like, right, we've finished the chemo. I'm feeling really good. We've got to start the radiotherapy straight away, which in hindsight was the wrong thing to do.
Sure.
But they let me do that because I wanted to get through all the treatments. You know, I just wanted to, I was not like a prison sentence, but I was marking it off, you know?
But I guess the logical part of you is like you're doing something towards it.
Oh, you're so proactive when you're in that place. So I was actually in a pretty good place with all that because I was proactive. I was doing something every day towards me getting better. So a lot of cancer patients will say the same thing as me is when you finished all the treatments, then you're out of that support system, suddenly you get really vulnerable.
Really?
Yeah, that's the stage where mentally it's the hardest.
Can you talk to that? Because I think for me, that's a waiting place as well, because you've done everything and the people aren't kind of coming around with the cooked dinners or asking how you are, and you've got the all clear, but there's still not, the doubt and the worry is still there, and the fear, I guess,
at any time.
That's huge because I think it's whole dealing with my body's done this once, it might do it again. So you lose all this confidence in your body. Of course, at the same time, I've gone through all these treatments and I've kind of wrecked my immune system because that's what happens. And I got every cold and flu known to mankind like the following year. So I was really run down just from normal illnesses. And by that stage, I was quite thin, you know, just trying to eat, keep your weight up. That's a hard thing for me. So it was a difficult time. But I think I should talk about my hair because I was
going to say to you, because your hair, the hair loss?
Oh, my hair loss, I lost it all.
Because you went from fashion designer, you know, all that stuff, and then to this treatment and then losing hair.
So like I'm not a beauty and I don't really care about my hair, but it is part of who I am.
Sure.
I definitely think so, especially for women. It's a huge part of our personality, our identity.
Absolutely. So they said you're going to lose your hair. And it's funny, if you were told that as a woman next week you're going to lose your hair, you'd be devastated. But be told you're doing this, you know, while you're fighting cancer, you're like, right, no, it doesn't matter. You know, I'll just get on with it.
Right.
It's such a different mindset.
Amazing.
So I had quite long hair there. So I got my hairdresser to chop it to about this length before I started the treatments. And when my hair fell out, it was actually fascinating. It fell out in the space of 24 hours.
The whole thing?
Yeah, all of it. I had a few wispy bits that I got my hairdresser to shave off, but
That's a huge
24 hours, it was just shedding everywhere. It was incredible.
Oh my God.
It's like a movie, like, you know, when you sort of go, like, I think it was a Simpsons episode when he lost the hair tonic or whatever, and he sort of went to the mirror and it was just like traipsed from the bed to the thing.
Yeah, it was just like that. It was hair all around the house. It was kind of hilarious.
Yeah, right. So it was so...
I would have thought it'd been so gradual, brushing the hair
Everyone's
a few more.
different, but for me, that's the way it played
just
out.
went
And so what did you do? Did you just go, right, this is it? Or did you wig? Or
I had a wig.
You wore a wig?
Because I was still having to work a little bit.
Yeah, so
I worked
you
through
were
this.
working working in the publishing company?
Yeah, I was working for my the publishing company I worked for. I didn't work full time, but I worked as much as I could.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't afford to lose my job.
No.
And it was good too because it made life normal.
Yes.
But I didn't want to go to work being the cancer kid. So I had a really cool wig, and I used to like plaster on piles of makeup, which is crazy. But I just wanted to look quite feminine.
Yeah, and
Right.
feeling confident in that.
And it's amazing. People go, "Oh, you look so great," and they don't realize it's all just,
It'll wash off.
Yeah.
Right.
But the funny thing is, like, because you don't really know what your scalp looks like.
No.
And I found out I'm the perfect egghead.
Oh, no flat spot or no.
So, I mean, my husband used to say I look like a little store mannequin, which is really cool. Which is good. Because I only wore the wig at work. I just, took it when I got home.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, and again, this is just an illustration of the whole journey of what I experienced with cancer, is when my hair started growing back, it was amazing. I got everyone to like brush it because it was so soft.
Soft,
Oh.
yeah.
It was amazing. I was like a little cat stroking it.
Yeah.
And it looked really good at a stage where it was kind of like wavy, because that always comes back wavy because the hair follicles are damaged.
Oh,
Right.
interesting.
And it looked amazing, but then it looked terrible. I would have had to have my hair cut every 3 weeks to have that chic look.
Yeah.
So honestly, I looked like I'd put my fingers into a light socket and my hair grew up I looked like a Muppet. It was just like this hedge on my head.
Wow.
And like all my friends, and I didn't have the wig then, so all my girlfriends go, "Oh, you look so chic, you look so amazing." All my male friends were more truthful, and they're going, "What have you done to your hair? It looks terrible." But that's just one element of that stage of just feeling so unconfident. And of course, that is when, I've battled cancer and I'm still working, and that's when I'm made redundant. Just at that point when I'm just so
At
vulnerable.
your lowest ebb, yeah.
Wow.
But you know what? I kind of look back in hindsight, and I'm grateful that it didn't happen the year before when I was going through the treatments.
Right.
Because that would have been, who would have hired me?
Sure.
That would have been even worse. But that got me at my most vulnerable spot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when was that a process, or was it like out of the blue? Did you know
Yeah,
it was
it
coming?
was for me out of the blue. But that's because I was going through the treatments and I wasn't kind of aware of all the, the
Sure.
stuff going on. I think if I'd been well, I might have picked up a few clues.
Sure.
And it wasn't personal. Most of the
No.
people lost their jobs. It was one of those multinationals restructure line through
Yeah.
New Zealand. Most people are
Yeah.
gone scenarios.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people now will be going through. It happens all the time. And I just thought, well, I'm not going to feel sorry for myself, because it'd be very easy
Was
to
that
go.
instant, or was that a
pretty
few
much.
weeks? Really?
No, it was pretty much, I'm shocked. This is terrible, but I'm not going to feel sorry for myself. I'm not going to go, it's not fair. I've just beaten cancer and now I've got this. I'm going, no, I'm going to get through this.
Wow.
So, and rather than going home and crying, I went home and redid my CV.
Wow.
And I immediately thought, well, the bright side of this is I can tell everybody I'm looking for a job. You can't always do that, can you?
Yeah.
So I just told every man and his dog, look, what I want to do, I need a job. But my greatest fear was that I wouldn't be working in publishing again. Because at that stage, a lot of people were losing their jobs. It felt like, there was no jobs left, which may feel like media at the moment and other
Yeah.
industries.
TV.
You think,
yeah.
I'm going to, miss doing what I love. I'll have to do something else. But I found the best thing, again, is that getting people involved. So within a week, I had a bit of freelance work. And within 2 weeks, I had a new way of looking at my working life.
Interesting.
And I think I'd kind of got the blinkers on because my husband at that stage was earning commission. And I thought, I've got to get a salary job again, for us as a couple. But then I realized, no, I don't need to do that. I can freelance. And I think that was kind of the making of me.
Wow.
That's what I've been doing ever since. And honestly, within 2 weeks, I had enough work. And it was all from people who knew people that offered me work.
Interesting.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, your tenacity and resilience in that moment, you've lost your job on top of everything, to go, right, CV. That is so strong as a response. I'm wondering, would you say that that's connected to all the hard things you've gone through right, I have to get up again? Is that the moment you realized?
I think definitely. Because it's undoubtedly I've gone through some hard things in my life, but I had this beautiful, blessed life at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's like if I get, and it's not always, it can be really hard, you still cry and do all that stuff. But I think for me, it's being proactive and trying to find solutions.
Yeah.
And I've always been a bit like that anyway with my personality.
Yeah.
So you said that you were half, kind of one foot in the book writing not vulnerable, not putting yourself out there in terms of a creative writer. There was a lot of
Like 5 in the back pocket that
five
you'd
in the back
written.
pocket, but they were sort of more non-fiction. Yes, non-fiction. And then you have this, you get made redundant, and you get freelancing work. Are you sort of backed into a corner then and just go, right, this is it, I'm then going to go into it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So it was that whole vision of like, I still want to work with other authors and support what they do, which is I do a lot of that, but I'm also going to do more of my writing. And I'm going to be more upfront about, talking about it and fronting up, which believe it or not, I'm actually a really shy person. So, just building confidence around that. And I think it's just the thing of, I'll just give this a go.
Yes.
And if I look silly, so be it.
Yeah.
It's like doing this podcast. I've never done a podcast before, but, let's just give it a go and see what
Absolutely.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing to lose. You've
No.
been put in this position. Do I give it one last real big go?
So what was the first book? So you've gone, okay, I'm going to put my, all the things into my own writing now, and I'm going to put myself out there. What was that first one? And was it like instant success? I can't believe I didn't do this. Or was it like, oh my gosh, it wasn't until book 14 that I decided. Yeah.
Look, I've been so fortunate. So the first one out of the gate after cancer was The Paris of the East, which was the number one bestseller here in New Zealand.
Goodness.
So that was it?
Yeah.
So as soon as you went from...
Well, it took time. I remember
Of
there's
course,
recovery and
of
everything that went
course.
on, but that was the first
But that was
book,
the first book that you said, you know what, I'm going to actually write my own thing.
which is amazing,
Amazing. Oh, I just feel like everything had to happen this way from the job loss for you to go, right, I'm full on going for it now, and for it to be the success. It's like everything meant to happen. Like,
Well, I
for this
think,
to be
and
your
I don't know whether
success.
I would call it success. I think it's just like I'm doing now what I'm supposed to be doing,
Right.
and I'm fairly happy with it. And I love this
aligned.
crazy creative freelance lifestyle that I have. It's wonderful. Occasionally, it's overwhelming,
Yes.
because just sometimes my projects all happen at once. But I fundamentally love it,
Yes.
and I think what I love too is like it was so lovely what you said at the beginning of this. Like your children love Elastic Island Adventures, and if they are encouraged to read, that's going to help them in their lives. So that's the extra special thing. Like my nonfiction does help people. My fiction is escapism, but sometimes you learn a few things. And my children's books are helping promote literacy.
They really are.
So Paris of the East, bestseller, and then you think, I can do this. And so what was the next
So
thing?
it's more just like, for me, it's very simple. It's not even like world domination or anything. It's about, I'd just like to write the next one. It's
Right.
that simple.
Is there pressure on the next one after the
No.
first? No? You're like,
No.
right, we're on a roll.
So I feel we talked, Jess Stewart, about a big realization of not trying to control the next thing and just being open to the next thing. And it sounds like you've kind of mastered that with, listen, I've had so many things thrown at me. I don't even know what the next thing's going to be. So just kind of almost accepting like, I'm doing this thing now or this thing next. And and so be it.
Yeah, and I just heard what you said before as well about I live a beautiful, blessed life.
I do. I really do. Like, there's so much love in my life. And that's the one thing I did want to bring out too, which I didn't expect. So when I was going through my cancer journey, when I was going all through the treatments, I had a thing called what I call the cocoon of love.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, we want to talk to you about that. We read that,
I
yes.
mean, look, I never expected this. And it was actually something, and it's going to sound a bit weird to some people, but it was like a metaphysical thing. I literally felt like I had this cotton wool cocooned around me. God's love, people's love.
When was this? Where
So
was
this
this?
is when I was having my treatments, chemotherapy and
treatments.
radiotherapy. And then
Right.
it was gone. But for that period, which was many months, I just felt like it was around me. So I've never experienced that before or since. But just like there's more to life than just here, eh?
Gosh,
so
yeah.
yeah. So
That
I
is-
just that was
yeah.
just what I needed at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
That's cool.
seeing so many metaphors in that in itself, like the transformation, the cocoon of like actually being protected. And
Yeah.
what did you feel? Did you think it was?
I just thought it was
like from a higher place.
yeah,
from
like
a
God given,
gift?
but just
Yeah.
something like unexpected and beautiful
Yeah.
and just I can't describe it. And as I said, some people will think it's weird, but it actually did happen to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just beautiful.
I think when you, especially in the creative space, when you put so much importance on the project or the book or the so-called success, then when you realize that there is something more or there is this, there's something else, all of a sudden it puts that book or that project or that thing, it kind of goes, oh, well, this doesn't really mean anything really in the greater scheme of things. So why not just put it out there like, a dinner conversation or a chat with friends? Because when you're around surrounded by people like that, it doesn't really matter. But if it's like in a world stage, all of a sudden that same conversation gets amplified and you worry about the results. But I feel like was that the realization, I guess, of nothing really matters
Yeah, I think if
to help you get through.
anybody's getting through that fear of failure,
Yeah.
so the worst thing you can do is maybe look a bit silly, or for a book, it might be a bad review or something like that. But in my experience, it's never happened. So then you can just like enjoy because I love creating, and that's like you do with your stand-up, just the creating something that other people enjoy.
Yeah, and there's so many failures and there's so many embarrassing moments that especially with
Yeah.
stand-up, it's like you go, oh, this is funny, and then you pause for laughter and there's like coughs and, someone puts their glass down and that's about all the sound that you get. But then the thing of like, I wonder how to fix that, and then you fix it and then you get it, and then it's like, it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, there's a lot of vulnerability in showing up as a creative.
Oh.
I'm wondering, because I get a sense that you absolutely love writing. I mean, 5 a.m.
Yes.
writing your own book before you go to work. So the love of writing is so clear and apparent. But what is the hardest part? Is it after you've put it out and you're waiting for...
I have this weird thing, and most authors have it. About 2 weeks before publication, I go through anxiety. So then my mind goes, it's going to be remaindered. Everyone will hate it. Everyone will be mean to me.
What does remaindered mean?
Remaindered mean like nobody liked it and they have to actually pulp it and get rid of it. Like your book is that bad.
Yeah, that's that
Or they
public
sell it like for
humiliation
50
moment.
cents or something,
Yeah, wow.
How do you get through that 2 week
Yeah.
of anxiety? Is there strategies now?
I just remind myself that it's never ever happened, and it's always beautiful. And also reminding myself that it's normal. Every single author I know goes through it. And I think it's the 2 weeks before publication because that's the point you can't do anything.
Right, it's out of your hands.
You've given up the
done it.
control,
Yeah.
Which is for you, that's how you get through things. To
Yeah,
go,
you probably.
yeah, because that's how you go. Right, I'm going to do this, or can we? Because if you had your way, you'd be to the publications, bring it forward.
Actually, sometimes
the
I'm telling to
treatment.
put it back because it's the wrong window. So that's where my publishing experience comes in.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What would be that thing that you would put in that handbook, do you think, to help people stand up again after whatever they've gone through?
So I think it's twofold. Be kind to yourself and get other people support in. So I think sometimes we've got this tendency to be very stoic and
Yes.
often think we've got to soldier through by ourselves. And also we can be quite harsh on ourselves. So, the cancer person you've met in the street, you'll probably be kinder to them than you are to yourself,
Yes.
as one example. But certainly if you can bring in your closest and dearest when you're going through some kind of challenge, that's going to lighten the load from the get-go.
What does that look like when you say that, when you say bring in? So does that mean telling people? Does that mean being vulnerable and asking for help? Does it mean I'm struggling here?
Yeah, actually, with your mum's request to be, really discreet about her cancer diagnosis, were you the opposite? Were you like, did you tell your workmates? Did you tell?
Yeah. So I looked at both my parents because my dad was the opposite. He was very outgoing and told everybody. And our house was full of people all the time. So my mum went the opposite way. And you have to respect the person going through it or
the
whatever they want.
personality.
But for me, I looked at both experiences. I thought the better one's to be open.
Yeah.
So, I might have got a few weird comments or whatever, but mostly I got a lot of love and support. So, like at work, I went round and just told people in little groups. I said to them, look, I'm facing cancer, but I'm not having a personality transplant.
Yeah.
And same Karen, just treat me the same. So just normalising it.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was a big bit. And I also, with my husband and I, we kind of sat down and thought, well, what support do we need practically? So he's an amazing cook, so we didn't need anyone to do meals for us. But, occasionally we've got people to drive rather than my husband doing all the driving. Because when you do these treatments, you can't do it yourself.
Right.
Just some practical things and just simple things like this is back in the day where you could have DVDs rather than streaming. So I just said, hey, can you bring in some feel-good movies that I can borrow for when I'm recovering? Just as a little thing for them but and a little thing for me, but just kind of gets people on board with it. You know, simple things like that are really good.
I think people are always wondering, how can I help?
Yeah, exactly. So give them
So
something
give
to
them
help.
something.
Yeah.
Give
Yeah.
them
Feel
something.
good things as well. Like I'm thinking, I bet lots of people were dropping books off for you as well, knowing how much you love reading.
And candles and flowers and all
Oh,
those things.
yeah.
Just that they might be cliche, but they're not. They lift your spirits because
Yeah.
it's that little gesture that someone's thinking of you and they care.
I read somewhere the other day that, if you think of someone, that you should text them that you thought of them.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's it. And that's all that, you don't have to say, hey, how you doing? Or da-da. You just go, hey, Sophie, just text you say I was thinking about you yesterday. Hope you're well.
That's such a lovely, simple thing, hey?
Yeah.
That's really nice.
But that would mean the world. you know,
Absolutely. And
to
don't
someone.
wait.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I don't know what to do. Just do it straight away. A little text is not going to be intrusive.
No.
You know.
I'm just curious, when you were telling your friends at work and your colleagues, and I guess people that aren't your closest soundboards or your husband, your closest people, did people's reaction to you change? Like you're saying, I don't want to be treated like the cancer kid, or did you find people were treating you differently?
Not noticeably. And I think, again, I guess that's the whole thing. I thought all these wonderful people I work with, they might experience this in their lifetime.
Yeah.
So I did try my best to be really positive going
Yes.
into work, even if sometimes I wasn't so positive when I got home. So I didn't want them to scare them off if they ever have to have chemotherapy or radiotherapy. I wanted them to go, well, Karen's gone through that and she seemed to be fine,
Yes.
so I can do it too.
And I guess, again, in the communication of this is what I'm going through is the elephant in the room, and people can then talk to you about it. And they feel it's a safe thing to. They're not going to be, upsetting you in any way or like saying the wrong thing.
Exactly. And like I tried to have fun with it. So like on Fridays I would wear weird wigs.
I love that.
like I couldn't do it all the time because sometimes I was too exhausted. But when I could, I tried to just inject some humour into it.
Interesting.
I think your mindset around everything that you've gone through and all the challenges is just so inspiring for others.
Thank
honestly,
you.
I
Honestly, I
really
just
feel
muddled
that.
through, but
No, it's really,
look
really good.
Look how far you've come, Karen. Your parents will be so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
So much. Yeah.
So what's next for you? I know that we can't control next and we are just working on
No.
the thing, but
Yes.
can you talk to,
exciting projects you might
exciting
have
projects
on the
you might have,
horizon.
or things that you've always wanted to do and you think, oh, I haven't done that yet and that's on the horizon, or even that's maybe, a few years from now. Is there anything that we can look out for?
So I think the exciting thing for me is I've got many more books in the pipeline. So some are already written, ready to come out, and others I'm, developing or about to start on. So, that I love that pipe is full.
Yes.
Yeah.
The pipeline.
Yeah.
Amazing. And how rich and full of life and hope, even just chatting to you now and the twinkle in your eye, to think that it's really joyous. And so
It is.
yeah, that's a really positive thing to come out of, because all the things you've gone through, you can go the other way. And this is what we want to do on this podcast in particular, is to spiral people up and to kind of go, yep, this is possible. And yes, it sucks and it's hard and it's difficult.
When you're in the dark time, to know that, well, Karen had that similar thing happen and look where she is now. I think that's
she got
so
some people
inspiring.
around her. She gave them loads of chores to do.
DVDs on the doorstep.
Yeah, grapes on this, massage my feet, all these kind of things. And,
totally. That was me. I was such a diva.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, big fan.
But you know what? Like, I must flag up that I did have my downtimes through that
For
period,
sure.
and any challenges in life. It's perfectly normal to have a good cry or scream at the moon or whatever. But I think that's the secret, is to be real with your emotions and let them out. But if you find yourself sinking in too far down, you've got to have some strategies to pull yourself up again. So everyone will be different. Like for me, it's listening to music, a walk in the sunshine, a bath, pretty simple stuff. So people will know what these things are that, just going to inch them back up again.
Yeah. And
I think the healing, your healing list, your list of 5 things or so that really energize you, I think that's really powerful to have and as a toolkit.
Well,
to
so then
know.
just to go through it, because then also as well, again, another podcast that we did previously, is when you do those things and you still find you're not getting yourself up, or that you find joy in that, then you can seek help there as well.
Absolutely.
By calling other people in or professionals or so on and so forth. But at least if you can go through that checklist of, I've got these 5 things which I know normally gets
daily
me.
self-care.
But to just accept you're not a failure if you've had a couple of days where you've just cried
Yeah.
and you're bereft. That's human. Like, it's
Yeah.
pathological to be happy all the time.
Sure.
Yeah, so it's
Yes.
okay to have a bad day or two. Don't
Yeah.
worry about that.
Yes. Yeah. Karen, it's been amazing. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you wanted to bring up?
No.
I feel, like that's going to help so many people and, inspirational.
Yeah.
And,
I
Gosh.
could listen to you talk all day, actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
Really
You're really,
good.
really so cool, Karen. Thank you for
thank
coming in
you.
today.
thanks for coming in. So that was Karen McMillan. Really enjoyed having her on the podcast. What did you take away from that? I'd love to, and we would love to hear what you guys took away. My personal thing is, listen, I thought I was a positive person.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was expecting a lot more wallowing in this episode. Like, I was expecting there to be days and days and days of this before you
Yes.
managed to crawl back out. But that diagnosis of her own breast cancer diagnosis, the immediate solution-based response, which I really think has come from her own experience with her mum and dad,
Yeah.
which has kind of prepared her, and she knew everything there was to know about cancer.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
So she knew how to attack it. But then also it was very interesting that she became clinically depressed.
After
So
losing her parents.
after losing her parents. And even then it was, once she got the diagnosis, it was practical steps and then logical, but how are we going to get through this, which is fascinating. But
So I guess a game plan is always helpful once you can, get those first initial emotions.
our fantastic producer, Natasha, said this amazing line where she said, even though she was literally lumbered with all of those things back to back to back, diagnosis of parents' cancer, then passing away, having to look after them, her own then clinical depression, then her own cancer. And then Natasha had this great line where it's like, she still after that chose to be positive, where the easy thing to do, it's easier to wallow and to feel sorry for yourself, but she chose the hard thing, which was to be positive. But I would say with Karen, it was actually, that's the easier thing to do, to be positive.
Do you think that's built in? Do you think that is,
It's a good
some
question.
people are born almost like genetics? Is the wiring in the brain different for some people?
I would
Or do you think
say-
it's based on her experience?
So I would say for me personally, because I've gone through quite a few different tough things, which will go across over the many episodes in my life, it gets to the point where so many things happen to you and you just realize, well, there's an epiphany of like, no one's coming or no one's going to get you out of this, that you almost have to, I feel like it's almost a switch where it gets switched on or it gets switched off. And we all get moments where it switches on and it's harder to switch it on, and there's also moments where it's like you're just in that downward switch.
So the life experiences teach you, you've been through harder, you've been through tough times, you will get through this.
So then it becomes positive. But I do think that, I don't think it's you just either positive or you're not. I think there comes a time where, I don't know. It's hard to say that because I feel like I'm positive and the negative things have formed the positivity. So it'd be very interesting to talk to someone who is
More
known as
pessimistic.
pessimistic
Yeah.
or glass half empty.
And there's a lot of mindset research that shows with daily practice of gratitude, you can, it's affecting neuroplasticity as such. So if you practice it daily, it changes the wiring in your brain. So it changes things. So you maybe have been maybe from conditioning,
Yes.
your environment growing up may be more pessimistic in your response to things. However, with a bit of daily practice, could start with 5 things that you're grateful for every day, but other things as well to help change the mindset. It could be that neuroplasticity needed to actually change the mindset so that you are responding with more emotional resilience. And that's really interesting, isn't it? Because you often just labeled something, but it is something we can work on, it seems. I
Well-
think you are way more resilient than I am when it comes to things. You're a fighter and you're like, we will do this. But I'm like, I fall over at the first hurdle it feels. But your strong, grounded response to things always helps me pull through. But I must say I've not been through what Karen has in terms of losing. She's went through grief twice in quite a young age, and then diagnosed her breast cancer in and amongst that time where she also lost her job. I mean, there's things happening.
There's for me, a lot of this isn't fair.
Yeah.
And why me?
What now? Why me?
And also as well, for me, a personal thing, just at 15, in my 20s, those are your fun, even responsible, you're not very free of responsibility, really. You're working and you're doing little bits and pieces, but those are your time to try things, go traveling, make mistakes. But then to be lumped with that,
the responsibility.
The responsibility is unfair too. But that's not...
That's not how she saw it, though.
No.
She saw those moments were precious with her mum.
Yes.
I think, what I really enjoyed hearing was, her very natural way to communicate what she's going through. So her transparency with her work colleagues, for example. Because when, someone in the office has been diagnosed with cancer, I mean, how do our natural reaction to that person change? Or... if you haven't really experienced or don't feel that person very well,
That's for me.
What do you say?
I've had someone recently who I've known pretty well, know them, enough to have their phone number in my phone. And they recently got diagnosed with cancer, and I still haven't reached out to them purely because I don't think I knew them well enough to be in that first wave of response of thinking of can I do anything, because I didn't think I was in that space to do that. But then now so much time has passed where it feels like that he didn't care or he didn't, but that was not the case. And so it's kind of like, where do you, like that skipping rope of where do you jump in?
Well, hearing how her mum didn't want to talk about it, but she found actually in talking about it, you invite in more support, or it's a more less elephant in the room feeling. And what worked for her were the nice things, which we think, that would just be like a candle. I mean, what can I do? There's nothing I can say or do. But actually, the DVD drop, she said the meals were taken care of, but there's nothing like a nice cooked meal, is there?
Chocolate bars always goes down great.
It goes far. And if you don't know what to say, just the gesture of, I'm thinking of you.
Well, that text message thing is the least that you can do, but it takes nothing. But as Karen said, it's not intrusive. Yeah. So it's great because they'll see it eventually, and if they reply or not, that's okay, that's fine. But at least that they know that you're thinking of them. But giving those people something to do is actually really good. How can I help? Well, you know what? Actually, you can,
mow the lawn.
Something,
help me get to the hospital.
We had
on
some
this
friends
day.
go through something recently, and I offered that, and I genuinely meant that. I would go around and mow your lawns if you wanted to, because that's a way for me to help them out, but not have to deal with like potentially the burden or the weight of the emotional element of it, because I'm not that close where they would want to share, or that would be awkward.
It sounds like practical help is just as helpful as
the emotional and sympathetic.
Because there's, I think it's really as well another great reminder in this episode of, from a loss of, say, the job that was security and quite high flying, being flown around and working with really international authors
for
and stuff.
other people, working on other people's books.
Yeah. To then having that go. And then immediately go, right, my time to shine now. It's my chance to just give this one more really big push, and how it all aligned. I mean, I know it doesn't always all align.
Sure.
But the freelancing jobs, and then they knew someone, and then a connection happened. And I just think, you know what? It's always worth just giving it a go. Like, what's to lose? As a creative, if you're worried about what other people might think of the book, the vulnerable nature of, creating something and then putting it out there, when you've lost your job, you really got to get some money, to pay the bills. Why not? What's left? You've got nothing left to lose.
Yeah, totally. And what was that word? It was something to do with the pulping of the books.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember what that was.
Remanded?
Was
it?
Remanded?
But
remanded?
pulping.
Yeah.
There's an episode of Alan Partridge. I'm a big fan of Alan Partridge.
Yeah.
He wrote a book and no one bought it. And it went to be pulped. And I think his book title was Bounce Back. So he didn't actually bounce back. But it's funny because the pulping would be the author's worst nightmare.
Sure.
But when you realize, well, that's the worst thing and that's not actually going to happen, but everyone worries about it.
But if it does happen, at least then
You
it's
would bounce
happened.
back.
Then it's happened. And the next book is going to be better than that, surely. You'd hope so.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you so much to Karen McMillan for coming on.
Thank you, Karen.
And reach out to us. We've got all our socials and our emails. We're going to put that up now. But yeah, thank you for staying and tuning in and listening. And yeah, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. But we'll see you on the next episode. And yeah, thank you so much for watching/listening to Stand Up Again with Sophie and Nick Ratto.